We're going to open tonight on Sefer Dvarim, Parachav Gimel, for starters. And we're looking at a pasuk that's going to be darshan. And the question of the Gemara is going to be, what do we need this pasuk for? We had already drushes from other psukim. So if you look, it's in chapter 23. We already had the drasha previously, chapter 23, pasuk 22, that we had looked at, and we looked at actually in depth. Yeah. Kitidor neder laHashem Elokech lo te'achil shamo ki darosh yidroshenu Hashem Elokecha me'imach v'haya v'cha chet. Our last shir focused on those last words there, v'haya v'cha chet. What we'll see tonight, though, is that just two psukim later, by the by, pasuk Chav Gimel, warding us off from making the Darim altogether. V'chi techdal lindor lo yeh v'cha chet. Just don't make an Nadarim and you won't have any sins. In fact, generally, Bisman Hazeh, we're pretty careful. We try to be careful not to actually literally take another page. 239 in the Quran Tanakh, 239, Sefer Dvarim, Parak Chav Gimel. And relevant for us tonight is to appreciate the way in which the Torah, even the Torah, seems, at least on the level of Pshat, to be warding us off. Don't make too many Nadarim. It's not going to be good. And if you wouldn't make Nadarim, that would be just fine. You know, it would be good. But then after that comes another pasuk, and this other pasuk seems pretty much like it is once again involving us in the same idea, and that's pasuk Chaf Daled. Motza Sefatecha Tishmor ve'asita kasher nadarta l'Hashem Elokecha nidava asher dibarta beficha. So that which comes out of your mouth, you should guard. And you should perform it, means like to uphold it, to do it, to make it a reality. Yeah. And you should do that which you have promised to Hashem your God, which you pledged to Hashem your God, which is a nedava. In English, you would say it a gift, a votive. What does it say in English here? It was something you have vowed. Okay. All right. Well, the translations are never perfect. They're all interpretations. So asher dibarta b'ficha, which you have spoken with your mouth. So that's a mouthful. And we already seem to have a pasuk that already said that, warning us just a couple of psukim earlier. I mean, it's just like you're repeating yourself. I mean, the Torah is never repeating itself, but that begs the question, so what actually is this about? What are we meant to take from it? And what the Gemara will now do is it will attempt to unpack this pasuk, but it has to be with an eye towards asking the question of why did we need a second pasuk? What was wrong with or lacking in the first pasuk? Or to say it differently, instead of being critical, what is the new element that we can pick up from this pasuk that we would not have otherwise known from the previous one? Yeah. If I look distracted, it's because I realized as I'm sitting here that the first page of the Ritva that I scanned for those who are at home is blurry. And when I put that on the screen, it's going to hurt your eyes. So I just quickly scanned it again through the marvels of technology. And now it's not blurry anymore. Okay. Halavai, we're going to get to the Ritva. I already made the copies. So, but it's an aspiration. You could leave the Tanakh open because we'll probably have to make reference to it again further along. I'm Dav Vav and up to a Tana Rabbanan. Tana Rabbanan, the first word on the line is Ta'acher. Okay, I'm on page 6a, Ta'acher, first word on the line of 6a, and the 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, what is it, 10, 12 lines down or so, something like that? Everyone have it? Yeah. Tan Rabbanan, Motza Sefatecha, says the Braita here, Zu mitzvah aseh. Okay?
That's a big change.
That's that which comes out of your mouth, it's a mitzvah aseh. Rashi, by the way, second line of Rashi, the mistama hachi amar kra motza sefatecha kayem. Mistama, when it said motza sefatecha, it meant you should fulfill it. Now, is that a received tradition? Is that a creative, interpretive gesture? Lo barur. Lo barur. It's a drasha. Motza sefatecha zu mitzvah aseh. Tishmor zu mitzvah lo ta'aseh. The fact said to guard, because whenever it says, right, hishamer lecha, it's always a prohibition. So it must be it's a prohibition. Mitzvah say, mitzvah lo taseh. Ve'asita, and you shall perform it. What's that referring to? Azhar lebeitin, shiasucha, kasher, shiasucha. it's a warning to the Beit Din that they should compel you to do it, to make sure that you follow through. Kasher nadarta, zeneder. That's referring to a neder. La Hashem Elokecha, to Hashem your God. Elu chataot v'ashamot olot ushlamim. And of course, that's referring to various types of korbanot that have to go to Hashem. Nidava, a gift. Kimashma'o, asher dibarta, that's what you spoke. Elu kodshe berek habayit, and beficha zut tzedaka. This is what we have to unpack. Like, there's a lot of things happening here. Look at Rashi, Motza Sefatecha again, to read it again. Second line of Rashi, Motza Sefatecha zu mitzvah say. The mistama hachi amakra, Motza Sefatecha kayem. Tishmor, zu mitzvah lo ta'aseh. Shelo ta'acher. Kid Rabbi Avin, Am Rabbi Loi, kol malkum shnemar hi shamer, pen, ve'al, b'chulei. Right? What does the Gemara say there? They all refer to prohibitions, to lavim. Right? As I was explaining on Friday night in shul, what the Yachad Shabbaton. That's what you heard it. You heard it shouted by everyone with the letters M through Z in their name. You gotta know who the audience is and what they're gonna get. So I hope they got it. But I hope so. But that was the point. Is that refers to the prohibitions. Okay. Further along in Rashi, now the first of the narrow lines of Rashi, Vasita al korchach mikan azhar lebeitin lachof. The Beit Din have some kind of an enforcement role that once people have made commitments and they don't fulfill the commitments, the Beit Din will assist them to make sure that they actually follow through. La Hashem Elokecha, why is it throwing Hashem your God in there? Krayaterahu lidrash l'rabot davar shebechova. So why did they put in La Hashem Elokecha? It's not superfluous. It's for the drasha purpose to remind you that which is obligatory that you speak of, even if you didn't say it out loud, the point is you're obligated to bring the chatat, the asham, etc. So there's an asay and a lo tasay. Bring it and don't forget to bring it. Beficha zutstaka, krayatera darish. There's an extra words here that you spoke with your mouth, so that refers to tzedaka. Yeah. If you look at Tosfot, it's the shortest Tosfot that you could find, the third line of the wide lines on this page. Beficha zutstaka, dichtiv yetzei mipi tzedaka. Okay, I mean that's as far as we get. Yeah, yatzami pitzdaka. Sorry, binishbati yatzami pitzdaka. So davar v'lo yashuv kili tichra kol berach tishava kol hashon, and therefore we have a drasha that's beficha and mipi, and that's tzedaka. So that's what it is. Full stop. I mean, there's a lot of things to unpack here, and again, I guess the backdrop of the pasuk that we saw, that we've been analyzing with how every phrase refers to another kind of verbal commitment. What is this adding to the story? It's not my question. It seems to be the Gemara's question. And that's why it begins this way. So Amar Mar. Motza Sefatecha zu mitzvah say. Lamali. Why do we even need to find out that there's some kind of a positive commandment to fulfill the commitment that you made verbally? After all, you could learn it from the pasuk in chapter 12 of Sefer Devarim, which is the parsha about bringing things to the Beit HaMikdash. Chapter 12, beginning of Parshat Re'eh. Page, let's go there quickly, because once we're here, should have the backing. Why not? Know it in a strong way. You have it in chapter 12, page 226. And if you look at Pasuk 5, end of Pasuk 5, page 226, Ki im al makom sheyivcha Hashem Elokeichem mikol shivtechem lasum et shmosham l'shichno tidrashu uvata shama. Next two words, in Sefer Torah, there's no end of a pasuk, so you could always connect in other ways. Vavetem shama. Vavetem shama, thank you. Vavetem shama. What do you bring? Olotechem, v'zichechem, v'et masrotechem, v'et shromatechem, v'nidrechem, v'nidvotechem, v'chorot bekarchem, v'tzonchem. Then v'chadam sham lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, etc., etc., etc. Uvata shama, v'vetem shama. So the last of the narrow lines here in the Gemara. Why do we need a pasuk to teach us that there's a mitzvah to say that affirmatively we must bring it? After all, there's another pasuk that exists already. Yeah. Then the second question: Tishmor zu mitzvat lo taseh. First of the wide lines in the Gemara on page 6a. Lamali, what do I need it for? Milot ta'achil shalmo nafka. Huh? We would already learn it from Lo Techel Shamo. Where's that? Back in Dvarim chapter 23, where we were previously, page 239, right? It already said on page 239 in the pasuk we've been looking at again and again and again. That's Balta Acher. So we need another mitzvah lota say. Vasita, Azhar Labeitin Shiasucha, Lamali, right? Miyakrivoto Nafka. Where's Yakrivoto? We wouldn't know otherwise. It's a pasuk in Sefer Vayikra. And that pasuk unpacks for us that the extraneous word in the pasuk teaches us that it will also be subject to the enforcement by Beit Din to ensure that the commitments made are actually followed through on. Right. So where's that? That's the beginning of Sefer Vayikra in the first parak. Miyakrivoto nafka. We learn it from the words yakrivoto. Second line in the wide lines now in the Gemara. Middle of the line, the Tanya, since we learn a bright yakrivoto, melamed shekofinoto. We learned that you can actually compel the person to fulfill their word, what they said they were going to do. Ad sheyomar. Oh, sorry, I skipped the line. Melamed shekofinoto bal korcho. Right, Talmud lomar lirtzono. No, it can't be against their will. It has to be according to their will. They have to agree that they're going to want to give that korban. So, okay, so how does that happen? Everybody knows this line off by heart. Kofi noto ad sheyoma rotze ani. Before the person really say, I want to do it. An offer they can't refuse. Now, what pasuk is this? Since we're here already and we have a Tanakh in hand, the more you look up these psukim, the more you come to these parshas, the laning, give you a bracha, you'll associate them. Oh, I remember that. I know what the sugya is. I know what these words are and why they're here. So you look in Vayikra page 116, it's talking about a person deciding they want to bring a korban. And if they're going to bring a korban ola, that's the archetype that we start with, at least the model we start with. Im ola korbano min habakar zachar tamim yakrivenu. El petach o moed yakriv oto lirtzo no lifnei Hashem. Why to repeat again yakriv oto? Since it already said if the ola is the kind of korban they're bringing is an ola, and it's from a bakar, so then it should be from a male animal that he should offer it, right? I should bring it to the petach o moed. But then why did it mention yakrivoto again? Lirtzono lifnei Hashem. So the Gemara has a limud. Yakrivoto means that we compel the person that they said they're going to give it, and they started. We're going to have to understand a little bit later what does that mean, compel, and what does that mean that they agreed to give it? A guy sitting in his house and he said it, so then the neighbors inform on him that the police should come and force him to give the korban. What are we talking about? So I have to come back to that. The Gemara will unpack it later. The point here is, why did we need to learn in our pasuk now that we're analyzing here in the laboratory? We're looking at the pasuk in Perek Chav Gimel. Why is it that the pasuk we're learning from Perek Chav Gimel that we see in Dvarim Chav Gimel is adding something new when we already could have learned all these things from other psukim, right? So Vasita Shiasucha, they're going to cause you to do it. We already had it from Yakrivoto, from a pasuk came earlier. Question?
I'm not sure I understand what Raj. I'm back on Rashi still. Sorry, the mitzvah asa is in here because is the mitzvah that he's saying to give a korban, or is the mitzvah to just give to Hashem? Or
On which words? In general?
In general. Let's just.
We're talking about where you've made a commitment. How do you, what?
Right. So
yeah.
What the mitzvah asa is to make a commitment, is the mitzvah asa to fulfill the commitment?
The latter,
okay.
To fulfill the commitment that you made.
So if you don't meet, right. So
yeah.
If you don't make commitments,
right, then you save yourself the problem.
Garments, you don't have a commitment.
Right.
Okay.
If you don't make these commitments, right, you don't have to do it. However, on this list, or on any list, once you include chatat and asham, they're put upon you. But if you look through what we have, again, on page 239, you get a lot of exercise done. How was the shiur? It was mediocre, but we did a lot of page turning, so that was good. You have here Motza so the words L'Hashem Elokecha, the Gemara learns have to do with chiyuvim that are not what you decided that you wanted to give. So you should know there's a mitzvah aseh, mitzvah lo taseh, but not always is that true. A neder, a nedava, and it's certainly the word tzedaka is thrown in here. That's the one I want to analyze tonight specifically after we learn cover some ground. The fact that you made the commitment to it is what obligates you, apparently, in a mitzvah aseh and a mitzvah lo taseh. What the Gemara is questioning now is, but we knew that already from other psukim, from other places in Shas. What's the chiddush to have another pasuk that sounds just like the pasuk from 2 psukim ago? What exactly is it adding that we wouldn't have known if not from 2 psukim ago, that from other psukim in the Torah that we already are familiar with? So, so the Gemara here points out that there's a case could be chad de amar v'lo afrish, v'chad afrish v'lo akriv. That the reason why we need these 2 psukim is to tell you that there could be a situation where someone declared that they were going to give a korban, but they never actually separated the korban, or a case where someone did already separate the korban, but they didn't offer the korban. It's 2 different phases. I said I would do it, but I just never even went to the animal to designate it. I made a neder. And the neder means it's not animal specific, but concept specific. It's on me, not on the object. It's subject dependent. I will give it. I'm not doing this, but bli neder. Someone would say, what's a neder? They're going to give a korban. They didn't say when they're going to give korban, and then say where they're going to give it, what animal they're going to use. So they declared, somehow it's on the record. They never took care of it. That's one phase. The other one is they said they were going to do it. They separated the animal. They even maybe brought the animal to Yerushalayim, but they never actually ended up going the distance. They didn't actually offer the offering. 2 different phases. Utsricha, and therefore we need both of these psukim, both the pasuk involving Yakriv Oto Lirtzono, and the pasuk that we have here. We're referring to Shiasucha, right? Vasita Azhar Labeit Shiasucha. Diashminan Amar Velo Afrish Mishlom Delo Kaimel Dibure. You would have said, what's the issue here, right? The person spoke, they never did the separating, so they spoke and they didn't act on what they spoke. So that needs redress, that you have to push them to follow through with what they had to do. But you would have said, Aval Afish Velo Akriv, Emekol Hecha de Ete Begaza de Rachmana Ete Tzricha. You would have thought that since I already designated the animal functionally belongs now to Hekdesh. It belongs to the temple treasury. So did I say I was going to do something? Yes. I didn't exactly do it, but the part where the temple treasury owns this object, that happened because I separated the animal. So what are you coming after me? So the Gemara here says these 2 psukim are required to, the fact that the second pasuk tells you that no, that would not be enough. If you were mafresh the animal, but you never actually brought it as a korban, don't think you're off the hook from your commitment. You still have the commitment, and it still has to be followed through. And conversely, the opposite possibility, Ishmin and Afish B'lo Akriv, let's say the only case was you're a mafresh and you were not makriv, you would say to kamashi le gabe. You're delaying something that belongs to the Mizbeach, something that belongs to Hashem. So that's a big chait. That you have to push the person, follow through. Aval, Amar V'lo Afrish. But if the issue was only the person said they were going to do it, they didn't do it. Ema dibura lo klumhu. You would say talk is cheap. Say their words don't matter. Their words, so they didn't fulfill it. So that's maybe on them, but you're not going to force them. No, tzricha. Then you're going to need to compel them so that they know that they're going to have to actually follow through and give the korban. Follow. In one case, you could make you could have made we need 2 psukim to account for both cases. We're worried that if not, people will erroneously conclude that if they've done one of the phases, either the first phase or the second phase, it's enough. And the point here is, no, that's not enough. You actually have to follow through completely on what you said you were going to do and carry it out to the nth degree, i.e., to offer the offering. Everybody with me? Everybody on phone with me? I think everybody's awake.
Yeah, we had a similar discussion this morning in DAF about George is there, about racist Goncha, that if you don't give racist Goncha, if Aaron comes to you and says, you got to give it to me, say, no, I intend to give it to Pinchas. Pinchas comes and says, no, I'm going to give it to Aaron. It's a question of Gezela and whether or not, you're obligated on Gezela or whether or not who do you have to give it to. So it's a similar concept to what we're talking about here. I think.
Not holding that sugya, but it sounds good. It sounds familiar. I'll take it. No, it sounds good. Okay.
If
Yeah.
my memory is half there, learning years and years ago as a kid, you could have you could learn out something from more than one pasuk, as we saw. It just strengthens it, and then why is there more than one?
Yeah.
Okay, or in this case, the second one for you is that you need both sukkim
Yes.
in order to
Yes. To account for different cases. Okay. So by having both, they are strengthening each other because they're accounting for each one for a different phase of the process. Because an argument could have been made that really, when you made the neder, you did what you needed to do. Right?
You wouldn't have any strength to.
Right, but their point is that they're both subject to Baal Ta'acher.
By making the nether, it's solidified.
Yeah.
Right.
In other words, the police come to the guy's house and they say, "You owe the rest of this korban." He says, "Well, I was mafresh the animal. What do you want from me?" Or they come to his house and he says, "Well, I wasn't mafresh the animal yet. So how could the clock start?" It started, and there's two phases. And two psukim tell you that you can't dispense with one or the other. The Gemara, however, does point out next that the pasuk explicitly uses the word nadava.
Mhm.
And what's the difference between a neder and a nadava? Remember, a neder is I will give it. The nadava is I point to that particular animal. And if you point to that particular animal, what does it mean? That you are mafresh it because you just pointed to it. So it's done. The Gemara says, "Mi matzid amart de amar v'lo afrish v'nadava ktiva utnan ezu neder haomer alai ola ve'ezu hi nadava haomer harezu ola uma be neder." Harezu ola, right? Hare alai is on me. Harezu is pointing the animal. Uma be neder l'nadava, right? What's the difference between a neder and a dava? Neder, if you made a neder, mate or nignav, if the animal died or was stolen, chavach riyuto, you're on the hook. You got to find another animal and designate that one. Nidava, but when it comes to a nadava, meta or nignava, eino chavach riyuta. You're no longer obligated in the responsibility of taking care of it. Why? Because the animal you designated didn't survive, so it's finished. Yeah. So a rava, and therefore, since the pasuk uses the word nadava, sounds like the case, at least in this pasuk, must be case of nadava. In which case, why are you telling me you need two psukim? Since the two psukim are only required for case of a neder, not for a nadava. Since the nadava, which is mentioned in the pasuk, is object specific. There's no gap between what I said I would do and the designation of the animal that I will choose. The saying is the designation. Harezu nadava, I pointed to the animal. So it's not I make a commitment that I will give an animal. I already declared what the animal is. What's missing now? Just phase two, namely, afrish v'lo ikrav. I was mafresh it, but I didn't offer the offering. So I didn't do psukim. So Rava bails us out. Amar Rava mishkachatla kigon de amar harei alai ola al menat. I'm taking on another al menat she'eni chai b'achriyuta. I'm taking on an ola on the condition that I won't be obligated if something happens to it. A fancy way of saying it is a neder, which is really a nadava, which is really not a nadava. Huh? Which is really, it's really a neder, it's not a neder, it's really a nadava. Yeah. So that's what he's saying.
Well, it's like what we say at Yisker.
Yeah, okay. You don't point to the money though. That'll be a problem.
Yeah, we don't point to it.
Yeah. I'm just saying, but you say bli neder, and then basically you are making a neder.
Right.
But that actually is officially bli neder, by the way. If you actually say bli neder, then it's bli neder. But it's along those lines. I'm making a neder that I'm going to give this ola, but I'm going to give an ola. You don't say which one it is. So that sounds like a neder. But you say, but I'm not chai b'achriyuta, and therefore it has a nadava element to it, but it really is a neder. It's a modified neder. So Rava says if that's the case, that's the nadava that's being referenced here. It's a nadava in the sense that you're not chai b'achriyuta, that if it was stolen or died, you wouldn't have to get a new one. But even though it's like a nadava that way, really is neder, and therefore, because he said it's upon me to give this offering. Therefore, there still are two phases, and therefore we care about both psukim. You follow? That's the distinction. It's important to see that distinction because otherwise you'd be left sort of like twisting. You're wondering what right? It says nadav in the pasuk. So which is it? Okay, that's what we got. Okay, you with me? Okay. Now we come to tzedaka. And now we come to the sugya of tzedaka. Beficha zu tzedaka. Beficha means that's tzedaka, right? Commitments that one made by speaking. Amar Rava, utzedaka michayv ala alter. Tzedaka, even though it's on this list with you should have to keep your word, don't break it, which sounds also like since it's in the same parsha in the Chumash as Baal Ta'acher, it's also related to Baal Ta'acher, i.e. have some time. No, Rava tells us, tzedaka michayv ala alter, my timer, daha kaime aniyim. We know this pasuk, this line already from the Gemara. We saw it already in Dav Dalet. We were quoting this previously, because remember in the old list, in the original pasuk, it also had the word tzedaka. I have to understand what's it doing in this pasuk. So the Gemara says, Pshita, Maudatema, you might have thought, why is it simple? So no, why is this word tzedaka have to be a beficha zut tzedaka? Maudatema kiven de in binyana de korbanot ktiva ad avre Allah gimel regalim ke korbanot. You would have thought this is the same pasuk with korbanot, that maybe it's just like every other votive offering or obligatory offering that you've declared. Kamash Malan, that's not true. Huh? Hatam hu detlinu rachmana b'regalim, alahacha lo dashchichanim. When it came to the korbanot, that's connected to holidays. Therefore, it's a holiday cycle, and therefore you have some time. When you talk about the aniyim, the poor people who are waiting for the tzedakah, are not going to work. There can't be a delay. Yeah, and therefore you have to give the tzedakah right away. If you keep going into the Gemara continues as follows. Again, Amar Rava. We saw that already previously. We had that idea as well. Back we were talking about how many regalim you need before you're over. So meitvei. But hold on. We're going to show a case now where actually the individual did wait a particular amount of time, was not over in Baal Ta'acher, according to those who hold it's 3 times at least. But apparently, if Rav is correct, how could this great Chacham have waited and actually skipped a Yom Tov before giving a particular korban? What's the case? Case from Tamura. Heid Rabbi Yeshua Rav Papias al Vlad Shlamim She Karev Shlamim. So there's a machloket about what you do if a Shlamim offering has a baby. Is that animal a shlamim as well before you offered the shlamim? Yeah. Or it's like the day you're going to offer the shlamim offering, it has a baby. So is that baby also a shlamim? Or does it have some indeterminate status? Rabbi Eliezer holds as an indeterminate status. This would be left to die. There's nothing you can do with it. Can't eat it. Can't do anything with it. Can't work it. That's it. Just finish.
But does it matter beforehand if you knew that animal was
Pregnant?
Is there
For our purposes, no. No. You said you're going to give a shlamim. You didn't say you're going to give the vlad. And the vlad emerged before. So now, the question becomes, what is the status of that vlad? And the chachamim hold it is a shlamim as well. And now, Rabbi Yeshua and Heid of Yeshua Rav Papias, a vlad shlamim, shikarev shlamim, that it should be offered as a shlamim. Amar Rav Papias, Ani me'id shehaita lanu para shel zivchei shlamim v'achalnua b'Pesach. We had a para that we were going to give as a shlamim offering, and we ate it on Pesach. V'achanu vlada shlamim b'chag. What's chag? Yeah, all the way till Sukkot. So b'shlama b'Pesach lo akravua emed mechus zman hava. Remember, we have at the beginning of the laning in Vayikra Chaf Bet that we read every Yom Tov. Right? Shoro Chasef. Right. In Emor, right? The animal cannot be offered till it's 8 days old, no matter what. Well, that's the animal was born on Pesach. We ate the mother on Pesach. So we can't eat the baby because it's not old enough before Yom Tov ended. Ella Vlada Ba'atzeret Hechi Mashila. So here comes the question again against Rava. Rava holds that if you even waited 1 Yom Tov without offering the commitment that you made as to be a korban, as a korban, you're over already on the asay of Motza Sefatecha. How come they waited till Sukkot? Right, so Heichi Mashila v'Avri Alei ba'asay. So Amar Rav Zvid Mishmei de Rava So the answer, in order to save Rava, Rav Zvid gives it, Kigon shehaya choleh be'atzeret. The animal was ill during Shavuos, therefore it was not roi to be brought as a korban. Rav Ashi Amar, Mai v'achalnu vlada shlamim b'chag dekatane. It must be chag hashavuot. So Rav Ashi simply answers by saying, no, the animal was sick, but how do you know the word chag always means sukkos? Maybe here it means the chag means the next chag, the next Yom Tov that came up, namely Shavuos, and therefore Aved and Shavuos. V'idach, the other side holds back to the original side. Kolechet Tani Pesach. There was this Pesach Tani Atzeret. It mentions Atzeret. If you use the language Pesach, it's going to use the language Atzeret, and therefore the third Yom Tov. It should be a V'amar Rava. Right? Sorry, we'll stop there. Tani Atzeret. And therefore, if it was using the lashon of Pesach, it should have said the next Yom Tov was called Atzeret. Why did it say Chag? It meant Sukkos. So either the animal was ill, or the word Chag sometimes can mean Shavuos. Either way, the point here is Rava maintains, and it stands. It was not disputed that even though you have for the Isser of Baal Te'ach, you have up to 3 Yom Tovim, that doesn't obtain for the mitzvah Aseh to do it immediately. And that's what Motza Sefatecha teaches you. So of course we're still sort of stuck. Wait a minute. How far is this going to go? I'm going to stop here actually in the Gemara. We'll have to come back to this next we learn, which I guess will be in a little while. We're on this next memra of Rava, because it's going to take us to another sugya.
I'll go back to the same problem.
Namely,
Same problem, meaning we know we have to do this immediately, but immediately is not really well defined.
right.
So we have this Baal Ta'achar, which says,
Yes.
okay, we can define late. I'm gonna go back to an unclear definition of late, especially as it relates to.
Because we had a machloket about how many Yom Tovim have to go
Right,
through.
right. So we're not, we haven't really, I don't want to say we haven't gained anything here, but in many ways, we're back to where we started.
The enriched understanding is that now we have a second pasuk, which at least at the moment that we're up to in the Gemara is positing and advancing the case that in fact, even though there is a prohibition, there's still an affirmative mitzvah to get to it right away.
Understand, but we still haven't defined right away. Meaning, I tell you, turn in your paper right away.
Yeah.
Right, to my oldest kid, that meant the same day, to my youngest, that meant the same year. So we
Right.
still haven't
Right.
defined
Yeah.
that by any stretch. So what you can't define right away. Right away is a subjective word. You can define, if you can define the mitzvah. I mean, you can say you have a positive mitzvah to light candles on Shabbos,
Right.
But you have to do it right away.
Okay.
But you also you can't define what right.
Point
away
well
is.
taken.
You
I'm going to modify your right away to be at the first opportunity. And the question is, what presents the first opportunity? You need to be in Yerushalayim.
Okay.
So that's the first opportunity. The question is, do you have to drop everything right now and run? Or do you take the first opportunity, meaning the first Yom Tov that comes up?
So I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna come back with my philosophy background and say,
I'm
first
listening.
opportunity is just another word that doesn't define anything.
Mhm.
Because you'll tell me
Abstract.
I should dive in at the first opportunity. Okay, I have a, the first opportunity, let's say 12:35 is the earliest minute.
Let's say.
And let's just say I'm a little bit hungry then. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna eat. And Francie's gonna say, you know what, I'll put off my eating. I'm gonna dive in there because that's my first opportunity. We're still back to something subjective. What is not subjective is what makes it too late. That's what makes the.
Yes.
That takes, you need the low taseh to complement the
Aseh.
because the aseh can't be defined,
Good.
okay?
I
So
think
that's why
along
we-
these lines, this is what we're about to see in the remaining minutes in the Ritva's problem,
Okay,
which is the Tzedaka problem.
he told me earlier.
What?
The Ritva told me that it was.
No. This is very good. I don't know. It's just like this.
No,
That's
but
how it works.
You said the first opportunity, that doesn't.
Right. Like, what does that mean?
Right.
And the question is the first opportunity for Korbanos the same thing as the first opportunity for Tzedaka?
Right.
These are the questions to Ritva. Let's open the Ritva. Okay, I'm sending this around. No, I tried to get through it, but it didn't work. So I was like, he's gonna move on to tomorrow.
Getting back to what Mark.
Back it, Ritva.
What does that mean? At first opportunity?
Right. When does it start and
When
end?
does it start?
For those folks who are at home, I present to
I
you
mean, it's abstract. Well, if the first opportunity.
The
starts,
Ritva.
well, yeah, when does it end?
on the screen in front of you. We need on the left-hand side where it says Amar Rava Tzedaka Mechayev Alal Alter. Remember, you're obligated right away. Yeah. And we'd actually seen this this earlier on Daf Daled. We learned this inside. So this is sort of like a review on Daf Vav, because Daf Daled was referring to referencing Daf Vav, and I said, don't worry, we'll get Daf Vav. Now we're at Daf Vav. So the Ritva has a series of questions to try to parse this, to try to understand what is going on. Okay, so now Amar Rava Tzedaka Mechayev Alal Alter. You see it there? You gotta take it in this version over here, so I can see it on the screen in front of me. It'd be easier. Okay. Hirshu Tosfot the Mechayev Baal Ta'acher. Daha Kaime Aniyim. Right? You're obligated in Baal Ta'acher. How come? How come? Because there are poor people that are right there in front of you, immediately. Right there. Right? The 349, the footnote, if you look down, based on the manuscript, some of the manuscripts actually have the word la'alter right there, because the aniyim are there. That's what Tosfot wrote. Even though earlier, when we studied this sugya, with regard to the Baal Ta'acher of the Shalosh Regalim, Katani Tzedakot, it said Tzedaka, Hataritz Nala. We, at that time, we had a discussion where we said, well, if there aren't poor people there at the time of, then you don't have to give the tzedakah right away, and therefore you're not over in Baal Ta'acher, and then you bring it to Yerushalayim, and you're going to give it to them when you go. So there could be a case where there is Baal Ta'acher also for tzedakah, but there aren't poor people in front of you. The Hikshu Tosa, but Tosa asked the question, and then like a Shich and Peah conversation, Perish al Zeh, we learned this. The Halak et Shich Peah b'makom the Ika Aniyim he. But after all, if like a Shich and Peah, only a mitzvah if there is a place where there are already Aniyim. And nonetheless, Tana Le'el Sheinu over Baal Ta'acher Ela Begimel Regalim, right? And yet there was a possibility that you were not over like a Shich and Peah Baal Ta'acher. So the Gemara was asking, "Amai Nema the Hakaimi Aniyim." Why are you saying there are Aniyim there? If there are Aniyim, then there's no such thing as Baal Ta'acher for like a Shich and Peah. You have to do it right away, immediately. The Tirtzu Dahatam B'Shalakt La'Aniyim Achem She'ein Ba'ir. We saw this Tosfot inside a few weeks ago. It's the case is that you went and took the Leket Shich and Peah for poor people who don't live in that town. Yeah. Ucharabi Eliezer. The Amar. This is quoted in Tosfot. Mishliket a Peah v'Amar Harezu Liploni Ani Zacha Zikalo. Vadai She'ein Teretz Zemechuver. It says the Ritva. This is not a clear answer. All right. It's just not. It's not working. The Havali Lameimar Allah Hanicha Rabbi Eliezer. This all works according to Rabbi Eliezer, who says you could do that. El Rabbanu say you're not able to take like a Shich and Peah for somebody else in another town. Ma'ika Lameimar Davik Yichida Delo Kehilchata. Because Rabbi Eliezer is a yachid, he's an individual. The halacha doesn't follow him. Ve'od kasha im ita de Baal Ta'acher Tali Kefi Ma Shesipeg Biyad Lasot. If you're going to say Baal Ta'acher has to do with what you're able to do. Gabe korbanot. Here we're up to you, Mark. Gabe korbanot nami lichayvu b'nei Yerushalayim la'alter. You know what your first opportunity is if you live in Jerusalem today, because you live there. It's not like you live in I don't know what in Netanya Borough Park. Yeah, in the Borough Park section of Netanya. Just made that up, right? You're living in Katzrin, and you have to take a trip to Yerushalayim. Then your first opportunity is I schlep there 3 times a year. I'm not going in the middle of December. Call me in the spring. Roads impassable, business that has to be run, sakana, yeah? Okay, but if you live in Yerushalayim, so how can you get Baal Ta'acher three times? You should get no Baal Ta'acher. By the logic that tzedakah is immediate and there's no Baal Ta'acher because the aniyim are in front of you, that which you made a commitment, the one you made a commitment to is before you now, therefore you have to pay now. So how come it doesn't obtain for korbanot? The Hakai Mikdash, Hakai Kohanim. The Kohanim are there. The Mikdash is there. Give them all their due. You said you're going to do it, so do it. Understand? The Od, I feel call Yisrael Nami. It should be true for all Jews in general. Once you have a mitzvah asay to do it, you should have to give it right away. Well, you're mechuyev to show up anyway. So lama lo techayvenu gam kein miyad b'bal ta'acher. So it should be over right away in bal ta'acher. Why is anyone talking about 3 holidays? Drushes and this and that. It's la'alter because it's the first opportunity. Daha kaimi mikdash v'kohanim, because there's a mikdash and there's kohanim. V'od, and furthermore, imi to debal ta'acher ba'alma. Sorry. Next page. 1 second. Yeah. Hold on. I made a mistake here. I have too many tabs open. Okay. Nope. Next one. Bal ta'acher the safek. The sipek biyado laso tali. Sorry. The sipek biyado. Hold on. Next page. Back of the page. Lamed chet. It says on the top.
Mine says Lamed Zayin.
It says line 9 on the right wall.
No way. No. Did I do this? Yeah. Lamed Zion on the right corner. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. All right. Right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Whoops. I'm looking at the wrong corner. Okay. So the sipek biyado it's besipek, not suffix. Besipek biyado laso tali has to be that you're able to do it. My time at the Rabbi Shimon, the Amar Gimel Pamim, Pamim Gimel Pamim Dal Pamim Hey, V'lami Yamtinu Yoter L'mi Shenadar La'achar HaPesach L'mi Shenadar Kodem HaPesach. Why are you giving a guy more time if he made a neder 2 days after Pesach and the guy gave it 2 days before Pesach? The guy, according to Rabbi Shimon, you need all 3 holidays in order. Remember?
Right.
So if you were 2 days after Pesach and you made a neder, wow, you get 5 times. Shavuos Sukkos, Pesach, Shavuos Sukkos. Wow, right? El Avadai, the regalim lebal ta'ach exerta katufu. It must be that when it comes to the regalim, the Baal Ta'acher issue is exerta katuv. It's not related to the logic of first opportunities. It's just the scriptural decree of how long you get. V'im kain mali korban mali tzedaka. So if that's true, right? Then what's the difference between korban and tzedaka? Why don't you say tzedaka should also be exerta katuv? After all, they're in the same pasuk. Ve'od kaven the tzedaka gabi korban k'tivei. Since they're in the same pasuk together, minali l'rava le'ukmei kra litzdadin chiyuv tzedaka la'alter v'chivu kulu idach begimel regalim. On what basis did Rava, asks the Ritva, make a decision that when it comes to tzedaka, that's immediate, but when it came to the other holidays, you have three regalim. V'chitema dekra b'deleka aniyim ba'atre mishtai. If you want to say that the pasuk is speaking about a case where you do not have a niyam in the place where you live, the Rava lav akrakai. Those are farish. So Rav is, basically coming to explain the pasuk in that way. Yeah. Right? Should have said tzedaka. If there are poor people, you're chayiv automatically. It didn't say that. It just said generally, the ilu high lishna the Rava mashma the tzedaka dichtiv b'krakai u'v'chol tzedaka kamar the chayiv al alter. Right. So if the language of Rava had actually been with regard to tzedakah in a particular circumstance, because there are poor people there, right? Ikaime aniyim, that would have been one thing, but it didn't say. It said all tzedakah you're chayev automatically. That's what Rava seems to be saying. Not like Tosfot, who said, well, the aniyim are there, the aniyim are not there. That's depending. V'od kol heichet l'leika aniyim hacha v'lo atatoch gimel regalim nami. Let's say there are no poor people now, and there won't be within 3 regalim either. This is never going to show up. The ilato have a mechayiv al alter, because it would come in the middle of the 3 regalim. You're going to say, well, you weren't here when I declared I'm giving the tzedakah, so now I have to wait 3 regalim. You have to give them right away, right? So, and according to the footnote here, it's minale dihei chayev, right? Lechazer achar aniyim ba'aretz k'dei shli'avar ba'al ta'achar la'achar gimel regalim b'chol yom. How do you know, right, that maybe the that the person should be chayev? They have to run all everywhere. Forget gimel regalim. They should be running all the time to find poor people till they find people. Should pursue them. Yeah, and because of all these questions, the Ritva, this next paragraph, all these questions that I'm posing, I'm just going to say it straight. And by the way, the Rashba also has a bit of a different answer, but it's along these lines, right? Bikol kushira elu, right? All these things that have come up. Perish laolam, bal ta'achav gimel regam hu tolu l'chol davar, u'gzer katafu. V'rava lo ka'amar ella, de mechayev ala litna la'anim la'alti mishum asay de Motza Sefatecha. Behind the late lahai time agabi like shiklumpeya. So when are you chayev la'alter? Rava says tzedaka. The word tzedaka appears explicitly in this pasuk. It's not explicit in pasuk chaf bet. It is explicit in pasuk chaf dalet, and therefore once Sefatecha applies to tzedaka and not to like a shecha and peya. I.e., unlike the gimel regalim where there's a katuv to tell with regard to the gimel regalim that they are only after a certain number of regalim have passed. It's not true for tzedaka. That is immediate. You do have to pay it immediately. Raya, the Perizeh, Milisna de Rava. The Lokamar Utzdaka Avar Alela Alter. The tzedaka is not that you over on it immediately. Asid Motzvatecha Kayem, Vahainu de Lete Lahai Taima, Kilishna de Nakit Lakaman Bechol Yom Vayom over the Balta Acher, Vanakat Lishna de Mechayev Alela Alter. You're obligated immediately. It's not that you're over in Balta Acher immediately, as that you're Mechuyev on Motza Sefatecha immediately.
What does that mean? You immediately, you have to pay. So in other words, the occurrence, there's a time period of the occurrence. That's when you have to pay immediately the amount that's due. Is that what it means?
Yeah, and you have to try to find poor people to take care of. That's based on Rava's language. That seems to be the best we can do to try to figure out what is going on. Otherwise, we're left with this question of like, what are we supposed to do here? We have Motza Sefatecha and Tzedaka, and the language of Rava is not that you're over and Baal Ta'acher, it's that the obligation comes about immediately. For want of time, I got to skip most of the machinery and take you to the last page where he comes down, actually sort of lands and gives you the thesis of what he's trying to say. All right, there's a lot of machinery here. He's going back and forth. With Tosfot, go to page 3, which is Lamed Tet. There's an arrow there, page Lamed Tet. Won't be able to see this whole thing either. Another thing at 8. Yeah, Ela Vadai. See that? Ela Vadai b'tzdaka d'shchichei aniyim b'chol duchta v'hein tzrichim lo b'chol sa Rama Rachmana Chiyuva Alela Alter. Vadai, when it comes to tzedaka, that poor people are found in every place, and they need the individual at all times. So there, the Torah went out of its way. I tell you, your obligation starts immediately. Mikevan de kabli alei, right? She'im ata kovelo zman meruba hareanim reivim. It's obvious that if you're going to start giving a time, then the poor people will go hungry. Ustama shekach haya dad hanoder litnul alter. And the understanding is that when the person said they're going to give tzedakah, they meant immediately. Aval korbanot sherov hanodrim, rov hanodrim, lo shchiach lo mikdash o kohanim, v'u mamun gavov efshel hamtin. Since it comes to korbanot, most of the people who make nedarim do not live in the vicinity of the mikdash or kohanim. I mean, kohanim without mikdash, so it's mikdash v'kohanim because you give the korban, then you could give the portion to the kohen. You can't just give it to the kohen, right? And it's mamun gavoa, and you can wait. It's not going to start splitting hairs, this place, that place. Then we're going to have to start figuring out all the geographical ranges outside of Yerushalayim. How far is Efrat? How far is Beit Shemesh? How far is Chadera? How far is, right? Yeah. So we're not going to say Elavada lo chilek hakatuv v'tala lekulam b'regalim l'bal ta'achar mihat. Right? So standardized. And not going to start splitting hairs. It's obvious that okay, that meaning you're going to get the 3 holidays, and they're going to be even in order. Nonetheless, that's all going to apply when you're talking about things that belong to the Gavoa and holidays. We're not found, it's not related to holidays. They're not related to Yerushalayim and the holidays. They live in the town where you live. Excuse me, you're not going to connect it to that. When we shum to have a time of the Svara, who mit mahinan ole pshita. right? Ki lama yarich hakativ chov shel aniyim shetzrichim lo kol sa v'yitleu b'regalim kim v'shchich aniyim. It's true there'll be aniyim in Yerushalayim, but that's not the only aniyim in the world. They're in your town probably, so you should give it there. V'lachi ma'adrina dilma sal kadaitach d'gzer hakativ hula dunok shar nidre gavoa k'mash mulan rabba dekrat lo katavei hacha el lahosiv ale chiyuv to asay v'lo tasay. The point with that tzedakah is to add an asay and let's say Motza Sefatecha. What's what I say? Tishmor mitzvah lo tasay, i.e., don't tarry. In the case of tzedakah, it's on its own schedule. V'lo kule ale b'maydim chay b'din tzedakah l'teit lanim b'chol sha'a k'masat yado bli neder b'chol shekain b'masha nadar. In other words, the point is you should be giving it immediately. It's not to give you a kula, but rather to make it sure that it's front and center. If you made a commitment, even if you said bli neder, but especially if you did not say bli neder, to give the commitment right away to those who are in need. That's all we have time for tonight, because we're hitting the 8 o'clock line, and I have to run. Okay, Ad Kan for tonight. Shkoach. We'll pick this up, Daf Vav Amud Bet at the top, a few lines down from the top, at the drasha right there of Amar Rava Kevin Shavru Alav Gimel Regalim. Next we learn, and there will not be a shiur next week, and probably not the week after. I don't know how to make it work really, but after that we'll probably change the night of the shiur to another night of the week. TBD. I'll let you know shortly because we got to keep going with the learning. But right now, because of the lobbying and everything, there's just too much happening. So I'm trying to hold it together. Okay, shkoach.